Alrighty, we are talking about how the medical industry, is it industry or medical? Should we talk about medical professionals or medical industry?
The industry, the
Industry.
enterprise, the system.
The Ben, you are failing.
I'm not the system.
So we're talking about that and how
Yes.
Don't drop the mic, guys.
If
and
only
how
we had a time to set this up beforehand.
this has only taken 20 minutes. You tightened this
No, I didn't. I didn't touch that.
with your strong hand. Okay, so how it's failing us, and I think just giving key points on just how to make sure that you don't make just simple errors if you're going to go and see this professional industry.
I think it'll be interesting to hear from you guys where you feel like the medical side is failing, because I don't really think I'm the correct person to bring that up, although I have opinions on the matter.
Well, I don't know. You're the inside man, aren't you? Shouldn't you? You have
That's
the.
why I have to get the opinions first.
Well, I mean, the opinions are like every industry is corrupt to a point of like if there's man and there's money, there's going to be misguidedness and push into direction for benefit of others. So it's like, what industry doesn't face that problem? Obviously, the difference with medicine is you're playing with people's lives, and like how much of medicine is pure science and how much is also just an opinion and a guess sometimes that someone doesn't want to go, oh, I don't know, and hey, take this, do this, and whatever. And like people obviously look up to doctors and professionals and that sort of thing, and trust their opinions. Like, hey, my doctor took an oath and you will never do me wrong. But we're human and we all make mistakes.
Don't politicians take oaths? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, they do. They swear in. They get sworn in.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where this starts. So this starts almost why we almost have these conversations on a weekly basis. Is that I obviously trust talking to my mom and dad because I feel like to a certain age level, those are the people that like are going to give me the answers. And then the person that you always say, "Oh, my doctor said," I don't say, "Oh, my conditioning coach said," or "Oh, my this said." Swim coach said.
I think that the medical degree behind your name does give your opinion a bit more weight, and there's maybe a bit more gravitas to what you say and influence in society. And I do think that should be taken seriously. And I think it would be very clear that we're not here to shit on anyone in particular, professionals or otherwise, but I think there are trappings in the industry that we need to be aware of and to not fall prey to, like Neil says, the darker side of man and money in any field.
So my question to you, and like we've had discussion maybe before, but doctors obviously are doing things just to fast track either because they are busy or because a general GP is seeing someone for a sore toe as well as a internal issue as well as a stomach gastro issue and then a bad imbalance on this, or just coming in for Botox. So they're seeing 7 different people that day. They may be dragged across in a few ways where they just say, okay, cool, for this flu symptoms, please just take this antibiotic, and be on your way.
Sure. I think that you have to understand that this is literally the definition of your time is your money. So you're selling hours and you're being reimbursed at medical aid rates. And medical aid will reimburse you for 15 minutes of your time. That's kind of the deal. So if you have a consult and you take 2 hours to get through your consult, medical aid not going to pay you for that time. They're going to pay you for a 15-minute consult because they deem 15 minutes enough to see a patient. 15 is actually even being generous because in that time, they're also allocating note-taking, taking vitals, all of that. So probably closer to 8 minutes for a consult. And then people complain because they say, well, this doctor literally pushed me in and out in less than 10 minutes. Technically, that's what you're paying for. You're not paying him for more than that. So is this money grabbing? 100% no. This is what's deemed fair. So I think if you want more time, you should be willing to pay for more time. That's the first thing. Second thing is I charge medical aid rates and I go way over time. I had a patient that was 3.5 hours yesterday. Charge them 650 Rand. It's just, I'm not going to reach, I charge per problem.
I just want to jump back in, and then there's also insurance. So doctors have to have certain levels of insurance depending where you are.
So doctors have a lot of costs.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of overheads. We have to carry stock of medicines and consumables like injections. And we don't have salaries coming in. We just a number of patients. So to be able just to break even, we need to make a certain amount. And like you say, that also comes in with insurance. So we have to protect ourselves from being sued, because there are nasty people out there who want to sue you, even if you've done the best you possibly could and you gave them a very good outcome, they'll still try and sue you. So you have to have medical protection, and that costs a certain amount of money a month. So you're way in the red before you even start. So if you're trying to get through X amount of patients and you know medical aid's only going to be paying you X amount of money, you kind of have to stick to that 15-minute format. So if you are unhappy with this, I think it's time to take it up with the medical aids, not the doctors themselves, because it's actually not that easy, especially as a GP, to make a good living through medicine. Very difficult. You have to see a lot of patients a day. And that's going to come at the cost of time per patient, unless you just want to be at the office until 12 at night.
Is that why often doctors do like patient consults, also do surgeries, also do this? Like they really mix up their week.
Correct.
So my other GP, if I don't see you, then I see the other GP in Dunville there. And I can only see him on certain days because he's in theatre other days. And he's also, so there's a lot of other practicing that he's
Yes.
trying to do to make use of his 10-year medical degree.
Correct. So then you'll get doctors who are looking to make a difference in people's lives, and it matters to them, and they'll say, oh, well, I'm just happy to maybe not be affluent and be sort of middle class, maybe even lower middle class with what their income is, because they want to help people, and that's great. And then there'll be other people who are looking to set up different side hustles to be able to live a good life and not have medicine be the primary income of their household, which I think is probably the best model if I'm looking at how I'm trying to model my life, is that I don't have to rely on the patient's money to be able to live the life I want to live.
Yeah, so that maybe brings us into a question just maybe more about you. So give us just an idea of what you do as a practice to try and beat this system.
Yeah.
To make
Sure.
like
So
your product better, your life better in the way that, because I do know you for a long time now and you want to genuinely just like help people.
Yeah.
But how do you make that product now monetized as well as, you know, satisfying? That 3-hour patient that you saw the other night, yeah, you didn't get any money from it, but it's still satisfying to a degree,
yes,
you know.
sure. Unfortunately, that doesn't pay rent. So you can say you want job satisfaction, but you know you have to make money. That's just the nature of the game. And if you can do that while helping people, great. But for me, I don't really split my time, you know, in surgery and this and that. I try and do a couple of things that I can bill more for. For example, Botox and fillers is a more profitable time for money. There's a couple of other things I do, like ultrasound scans. It's just general stuff. But I try and, even with those, not push that as the primary income. I try to have other things, generally with exception to medicine, outside of the medical field, where I'm trying to make passive income. And even if it's not passive, even if it's worked for, but I really think that's something that med school doesn't teach well, is how to at least supplement your income to a point that you're happy.
So like basically be an entrepreneur on the side as well as being a doctor at what you want
For sure.
to do. You know?
And it's difficult because I would say, like maybe like 1 in 10 things actually becomes profitable, but you have to put a lot of time and effort into those things that are literally for nothing. And you like walk away from it, and you're like, oh, I'm a giant failure, I'm no good, blah, 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 all the self-doubt that comes along with that. It's not to say, oh, let me start selling, you know, shampoo on the side. I actually do sell shampoo. But let's say you start selling shampoo on the side. Is this going to make you money? Maybe not. You don't know. So you try and you fail and whatever. And that's, I think, people do like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things and then stop. There's like, okay, this is not making me money. I'm going to double down my time on patients and try and push patients, advertise more. And I think I understand why they do that.
So let's take it now to what we feel that the system's failing. So in your eyes, like where do you feel like why you don't go to certain doctors, or you don't go for certain things, or that you know that your, let's say, clients always go for a certain medical thing, and then in the back of your head you're thinking, well, they should have just gone to go see Ben rather, because you know that it's just not.
Well, I mean, there's a number of different aspects from different things. And I think, you know, that stems from 2 things. Like the system doesn't help you be a good doctor because, like, yes, time is money. And I mean, even for myself, like I know if you told me, you know, if I wanted to do personal training the way I would like to, I'd spend a lot more time with clients, doing a lot of different things, working on different aspects. But like, I know that's not going to be profitable. So you see the next one, you see the next one, you get in, you spend how many, you only have so many hours in a day, and it's exactly the same sort of scenario. So yes, the system doesn't help, and you need to make a living. Secondly, I think there's, from my side, there's a certain train of thinking and thought process when it comes to a lot of things where the medical system is a lot all about treating those symptoms and not looking at deeper root causes. And the reason why that's also done is because, you have the pharmaceutical industry that pays its part in that, but, that takes time. And like, you don't have that time, as Ben said, you have a little consultation to go. So you treat that, the client goes, he thinks they've got help. And that's where the system comes back around to not really fail person, because then they're on 5 drugs later because they've only looked at symptoms, or that healthcare in terms from lifestyle hasn't really been discussed, and there's those aspects. So you want doctors that look at you as a whole, not just as the symptom that you're going to see them for. And finding that right person is sometimes tricky because they're not rewarded by the systems that medical system is brought up in, from education through to how you're going to make money at the end of the day. So, that's my thought process on certain things. And yes, people, like we said earlier, look up to doctors. So they're going to go see them for this one aspect, and they're going to give you this bit of information, but it's generally going to be symptom-based, and not when I'm looking at it going, yeah, but you haven't looked at X, Y, Z, and like, this can really help you, if you just did this thing. But they don't want to hear that from me as well, because I'm just their personal trainer, and I don't have a medical degree among that. And that comes from all sort of different things, like from someone who has a surgery to get told, okay, you're never going to do this again. And I'm like, well, that's not necessarily true. There's some things that you will be able to do if you put in the work. But the doctor's going to say, never do this again, because it's also a way of, yes, people sue doctors and they look for that sort of money, and then there's money made. And people are going to look to sort of doctors always having that, well, let's cut that risk down of this person coming back to me with a potential thing or going wrong. But at the same time, I'm going to over cautious you so that you don't ever run that risk of having. And that's a way of protecting.
Just on that note, so is there certain insurances that doctors don't take or extend it to take, so that they kind of overprescribe or underprescribe, or not take the risk of like giving that patient a certain kind of medical, some kind of treatment that then runs the risk of them being sued?
Not really.
Or
No.
is it kind of...
So when you sign up for your personal protection, you're signing up how many hours are you seeing patients for,
Okay.
and in what field are you seeing these patients, and then what procedures do you do under those fields.
So that's why
then that'll kick
gynecology
out
is
something
really high, and
Correct.
something like use
It's fairly
like
it's still, I mean, it's
middle
still
cover.
silly expensive, but like nothing compared to the obs and gynae guys.
Okay.
They're getting crushed.
So what Neil's saying, there's no limiting factor there of like what these guys are trying to take on. They're actually just not going deeper in because they don't want to run the risk, not because there's maybe a bigger
So
expense.
you just become liable for the advice that you give. So you must also understand that you can have all the medical protection in the world. If you're still malpracticing, you can still be sued. Like, it doesn't protect you against being a douche,
Then just the other thing that you said there was that this is kind of where people don't take the advice from me or you necessarily if we aren't linked to someone like Ben. So for someone, or our patients, let's call it, or our clients, they come and see us, and then I try to give them advice. And I'm like, you know what? Go see Ben if you're uncertain, or go chat to your doctor about this.
Yeah.
Then come back to me with that, because sometimes they just feel like that we're not a professional in that realm, and then they don't take advice, and then they go with their doctor's advice of not training or using this medication.
Yeah.
There's the one podcast I was listening to now, before the guy's mother died. She died from some kind of stomach cancer, but it was, I think they were treating Alzheimer's or whatever it was, but she was on 14 different medications. And he asked him, like, what are you using this for? What are you using that for? Is there any change since using this medication? And there was no change. Then why are you giving the medication? It's like almost just to try and keep putting us on. And like, I think it was 14 different medicines that this lady was on before she died, obviously from something else. But like, that's just where it is. It's like, why then keep trying to put a product on it instead of looking at lifestyle? Go look at the 5 pillars, our very first podcast, look at that, check in on all those things, and then realize why you're getting sick when you just start training. I had some clients come back this week for the first time in a long time. They were off on holiday and had been sick, whatever it is. Now they're sick again. Well, okay, step number 1, give me your 5 pillars. Are you doing those 5 things okay, or even above okay? If not, that's where we're starting. Don't come back and train until you, ticking these things off.
I'd also caution people against booking a GP consult or even a specialist consult after having banked a couple of issues so that you can get bang for your buck. Like you go in there and you're like, I have this issue, this issue, this issue, this issue. I promise you, whoever you're seeing will shut down instantaneously. They will pick one thing and they will pick the easiest one to solve, and that's that. Because technically, if you're looking at like a 15-minute consult, which is now cut down to 8 minutes because all the administrative stuff also has to happen within that 15 minutes, you can't fix everything. Even if you do fix a couple of things, it's going to be a very surface level thing, as Neil was saying. And then they'll be like, oh, but they didn't even talk about this. It's like, yeah, well, you brought 10 different problems and you wanted in depth on all of it in 8 minutes. So it's like, you have to be realistic about what you're looking to achieve. So I would say a good practice from a patient side would be, don't wait until you've got 100 different things. Go and see your doctor. Is it going to cost you $600? Yes. Does your sushi platter also cost you $600? Yes. And you're happy to spend that. So shut up about the money, first of all. I promise you, doctors are underpaid, 100%. Not like specialists and surgeons. There are some people who are maybe not so underpaid, but in general, your GP is not a super wealthy man. I promise you, that has changed. It's really not the case. $600 for the amount of time that they've had to spend to be able to solve that issue is really fair. Like a call out to a plumber is like $1,500.
And they're pocketing their cash in their back pocket.
Yeah.
It's like, hi,
Yeah,
sorry, where's my fees?
it's insane. They're
The
not
guy that came
covering.
out the other day actually had a little card reader with him. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cheers. You know.
They're not covering like medical insurance and all the overheads and nothing against plumbers. But what I'm saying is $600 to sort out your issue, your health issue, which is your body, is actually your responsibility. So shut up and pay it. Second thing is, don't wait for things to build up. Treat your body as something that you value. So if something comes up, you need help for it, go and see someone you trust about it. Oftentimes, guys are like me, and they'll gladly spend time with you until the problem is solved. But if you come to me with 10 different problems, like that patient that I saw, actually had two during the week. One was like more of an emotional thing, and we spoke for a long time, and there's just a lot that they had to get out. And I actually didn't even bill them at all for that time. I didn't even bill them my $600 because it eventually became a thing of like, this is someone opening up to me, and I won't do this for everyone, but so don't come and just tell me long stories. But this is something for me that we were on a friendship level, almost connecting about this, and we were just going back and forth. I didn't tell them anything medical, so I sent them on their merry way, and there's a lot of people like that who will do that. It's not like we're trying to bleed the stone of everything we can here. So I think it's a bit of a two-way street. People try and get the most bang for buck out of their GP appointment, and GPs are trying to get the most bang for buck by trying to push as many people through. So I think that there's a disconnect on both sides, and I think there needs to be a little bit of a compromise where both the patient and the industry decide, okay, let's just pull the brakes on some stuff here. We're going to show doctors the respect that they deserve and the financial contributions that they deserve. And doctors are going to take the time to say, although I might not be reimbursed for this extra 5 minutes, I'm going to rather book slots of 20 minutes rather than 15 minutes. I book slots of 30 minutes. I just give double because I don't really think that you can change someone's life in less. I really don't. And I think that's where we need to head with this and say, okay, we're respecting each other in this. I respect the professional for everything that they've given up to be able to help me. And I promise you, you give up everything. It is the shittest career choice you can possibly make. You give up everything. I respect you for having done that for me, that you are now willing to help me, and I'm willing to pay for that. And the doctor respects the person as someone who has hard-earned money, and they are sick at the moment, and they desperately need help. That's why they're reaching out. And I think both people come away from that kind of an interaction feeling good. That's a win-win.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that until now. Like haven't even had this conversation, I think, before. And that makes sense because like what you're saying now is I rock up at the doctor and I've got like, okay, shit, now this is also wrong. Let me go, and it's like I had this, and then I had that. And then I rock up there and this guy, I can see like, okay, you came here for one thing. Now I'm having a look at what's wrong with your foot, or whatever it is.
Yes.
But then it comes back also into what we do as well. Like we're not going to see a PT client or a client for less than 30 minutes. Like you physically can't get someone to exercise and get results and get what they want coming to see you for less than 30 minutes. So it's like, how do we give them a solutionable thing? Like I actually quoted someone the other day, they wanted hour sessions and they're like, oh, sorry, what's your cheapest? I'm like, 45 minutes is this and then 30 minutes is this. And they're like, no, it's cool, I'll actually pass. And I'm like, it's actually super affordable. Like I can't go less than 30 minutes, you know.
No, but I
Us.
mean, it's also, you know, I also will sometimes spend way longer with someone than I need to, and it's like, you know, if you're not going to do that every time, but that also does come back later because you've created someone who you've built trust, and they see the value in your time, and they're going to come back to you. They're probably going to refer their friends back to you, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, versus someone. So from a business perspective, you're still causing a return on your investment in that time at a later point in the versus if I just get you through, get you out the door, that person might go like, just I didn't really feel like he saw me. Like he just like I was just a number coming through. I don't really want to go back to that guy. I mean, I've had those experiences myself where I'm like, you know, that's not what I sort of want. You know, and that's also where if you felt that way, don't go back. Then go find someone who is going to spend your time, or
Agreed.
find a, you know, speak to a friend who get a referral, because those are always going to be the best. And word of mouth in a service
Yeah.
industry is always going to be your biggest asset.
I think that's where, like we touched on that before in one of our previous episodes, where find the right person in your life. So actually make this, we spoke about idols the other day, and make this one of those things that you put a doctor or a specialist or someone into your lifestyle that you can go to. I'm not saying go see your doctor once a month, like for something small, but like you're saying, don't let these things build up. Guys, so I only went to my GP now like once a year, like I go for my yearly checkup. A year's a long time to build up on multiple issues.
$600 a year. Like, what?
Exactly. So, I mean, then have a look at your medical aid. If you get consultations, I'm not saying use them and use a medical kind of system wisely,
Like,
but
use them.
but do that. You know, have a look at what product you're on. Get advice from us. Look at the podcast. Get some extra info that you can do automatically, and then systematically put these things in. If you can't see you for the full hour consultation, see someone like us for your lifestyle stuff. Bring these things out, and maybe we can give you better advice before you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
To get these things fast tracked.
I think people also forget how difficult it is to be a medical practitioner giving out bad news. Like, I have patients who come in and they've waited now for a long time, and now they are seriously ill, or their wife has nagged them long enough, now they come. But wives don't nag for nothing. Like, there's something wrong, and now it's built up to a certain level. Then I deliver this bad news. This is where we're at, and it's not looking good. And now it's disappointing, and like, they don't want to pay, and like now they have to pay for bad news, and it's like it's this whole thing of like, why are you making this way? If you had just looked after your health by doing regular checkups, by seeing people who can help you with your training and your sleep and your diet, no one alive, I genuinely believe this, no one alive doesn't know that healthy eating and exercise are important. How many people actually do it? 10%? Maybe 1 in 10 are actually doing it? And they're like, oh, yeah, but I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. I don't have time. Blah, blah, blah. If you're not putting things in place, then just as politely as I can, you deserve to be sick.
Then they rely on the system to try keep them alive.
Yeah.
Medical aids, doctors, medicine, all these things, which is going to prolong your illness.
Yes.
If you just did things correct from the beginning, you wouldn't be in that situation.
There will always be things that sneak through, illnesses that sneak through, even if your lifestyle is perfect. And I have nothing but love and grace for you, and that's why we have the profession that we have. But if you've let a lifestyle disease get to a certain point and then you're sad about it in my rooms, I really don't have much time for that. I'm just like, guys. So I had this one patient who I told them they need to stop drinking. They have terrible liver function, terrible kidney function, and terrible heart function. They are literally going to die. If they continue the way they're going to die. No, you need to stop drinking. But even whiskey, you need to stop drinking whiskey. Yeah, but whiskey's actually, the healthier alcohol. And I'm like, okay, hold on. This is now 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, so maybe I wasn't too nice. I was like, hold on. Actually, you're right. I want you to drink more whiskey. Drink as much whiskey as you can, because then I don't have to be here on a Friday afternoon once you're dead and out of my life. Yes, this oak's eyes were like, and his wife looked at me like, it's kind of like, do you understand what you're saying? Like, and then I think there was kind of a moment of realization where they're like, okay, actually fine, that does make sense. Like, it makes no difference to me whether you're coming here or not, and whether you're not drinking your whiskey. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And people, I don't understand why patients come in and counter argue.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if you have a problem with what the doctor's saying, or you don't agree with what the doctor's saying, fine. You must ask, you must question. But if it's something like, let's stop putting this poison in your body, maybe just buy into it a little bit. Like, the reason you are sick is for a certain reason. The reason you're sitting in my office is because there's a certain. So now that I'm pointing out what that is that got you here, maybe take note.
Yeah, but isn't that also the one big issue in terms of like people don't want to take personal responsibility? They want to put it on the professional at the end of the day.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing. So, whether it's someone moaning at me about, well, why am I not losing weight? I'm like, well, I see you for 3 hours a week. What are you doing for the other hours in the week? Like,
that's it.
we know you're not doing what you need to do when you go home.
Yep.
And that's the same thing. Someone goes and sees a doctor and they're like, here's my problem, fix it.
Yes.
I want it done now.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to have to go home and not drink or not eat this or not have to exercise or do whatever else, and that's obviously, yes, there is that responsibility. And that's where, again, the system then, doesn't help because it then goes into overprescription of certain drugs or whatever, because that's how someone feels like they're getting help.
100%. So that's I think now the other side of the things where the medical system is really failing people is this idea of, if I have written a prescription for something, I have helped.
Yeah.
And this is a big thing. Like, if someone comes into your office and doesn't leave with a script, they just like, what? So what am I here for then? Like, came to get some medicine for my problem. Sometimes problems don't have medicine.
I think that's where this is going to go into our next episode, but I'm trying to prescribe the correct person for somebody, whether it's a psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want to know that when I send this person to a person, that they're going to leave with something. And often I get clients that say, thanks for this referral, but I walked away with a conversation. I'm like, okay, well, it needed to start somewhere. They're like, no, well, I was looking to make sure that I got medication out of it, or how do I fix my problem? So there's that fine line between over-prescribing and under-prescribing. I think when we talk next in the next podcast on the actual SSRIs and things like that, that's where there's an even bigger problem now.
Yeah.
So firstly, the doctors maybe not fixing the lifestyle side, and they're just patching the problem coming in, because they're trying to get that in and out kind of thing. But then there is that problem of now they're patching and keep on patching or over patching, and then there's still no lifestyle discussion. And that person is still on an SSRI, but they haven't started exercising, eating better, going to bed, stopped doom scrolling, all these other multiple things, the 5 pillars. And now we're sitting with the pharmaceutical side.
That's really where I think medicine has failed, in that sort of almost like responsibility of wanting to help or feeling like you should be giving something.
I'm just going to check your camera.
What's it say? Yeah, so what I was saying was, that's kind of where we've lost it, is we do try and give people a script before they leave. And there is no free lunch in medicine. Anything that you take, literally anything you put in your mouth, including vitamin C, has a risk to benefit ratio. And when you say risk, people hear this straight away. It's the weirdest thing. As soon as you say risk, people have this like, oh, what happened to me idea. This is not a risk. This is a side effect. This is a known side effect that you are going to have if you take this medicine. So it's like, now we're giving you something. Did we really need to give something? No, but we kind of felt pressured, or we wanted to feel like you're offering a good service because we want good word of mouth. So, I went to this doctor and he gave me all the right things and now I'm sorted. Generally the body heals itself anyway, but fine. And now they've taken these things and they've exposed themselves to stuff they didn't have to, just because we wanted them to feel like they got something, or you wanted to feel like you got something, whatever the reason is. So overprescription is a big deal. And I think that the pharmaceutical industry, and I do believe that they are, in a broad bracket, very bad, that the pharmaceutical industry understands this about human psychology. So they're going to benefit off it. They're going to push it. Did your doctor give you the newest statin? Statins can be bad. What about the new statin, which is like the same with like a new sugar molecule? It's like, so I think that's a big deal, where overprescription has become the cornerstone of treatment as a whole.
But that's also the system kind of goes in 2 parts. Like, it has 2 tangles. The doctor and the patient have to tangle. So if the patients keep on demanding one thing, that's what they're going to get, and the doctors are going to play into that demand. So it also comes back from your side of, again, taking that responsibility for yourself and demanding more from the doctor. Like, cool, here's a drug. Okay, but what about this? Have you, you know what I'm saying? And demanding that more, like getting from that.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then the system just keeps on rolling on, So you as a patient also have to play your part in terms of going, no, I'm taking responsibility for my problem, and I know that this thing is XYZ, and I want more from that conversation than I'm sort of having.
I think that's a good litmus test of like, have you got a good doctor in your corner? Is if he prescribes a medicine and you ask him, do you mind just taking a moment to run through the side effects with me? Firstly, you'll be testing, does he know the side effects? And secondly, does he care enough to sit down now and go through my fears with me? Because that's really what you're asking. I'm concerned about certain things. Are you ready to put those things to bed? And if he's like, listen, this is really my opinion, so just take it or don't, like whatever, then you know that Oak is not invested. That is just trying to get numbers through.
So I think in a nutshell, I think to finish off on the medical side of how the system's failing is that it's actually coming from both sides. There's this high demand from us as individuals, as the patient, but then there's that system that we've now discussed in place where it's very short. It does lean into the monetary factor of things. So that needs to be kind of fixed. And I think patients can fix it as well as just by putting pressure on their doctor or booking a double session. Ask them, sorry, like, are you charging me for 15 minutes here or half an hour of this? I didn't really know, so what am I being billed for? And I'd like to know a little bit more detail of this SSRI that you are giving me and how is it affecting my lifestyle?
There's really nothing wrong with booking a double session. Just ask for a double session if you know that you've got a lot of questions and you'd like some time to sit down. I really don't think anyone will mind booking a double session for you.
Yeah, and I think as patients or clients, we should actually start doing that maybe. Just saying, listen, I need more time on this because it's this kind of, or I've got two things to discuss. It's this and can I get some Botox?
Yeah.
Don't try to squeeze a question into your Botox session or vice versa.
Agreed.
I would just ask Ben, like from your side, if you were looking at, seeking help from a medical professional, what would you look at in terms of knowing this is the person, or how do you go about finding the right doctor for you, or knowing that this is a good medical professional?
So there's no way to know without trying. That's kind of, you go by word of mouth, but I've had in my younger years very quick consults where I maybe didn't do the most for the person, and had those people think I was just the best because basically I pandered to whatever they wanted. I got them out of my rooms very quickly and they were very happy. And so word of mouth is not necessarily reliable because some people are very happy with, and I think that's oftentimes
depends on the horse and where the word's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a lot of people who will be like, oh, go and see this doctor. He is just amazing. I had this one patient who's addicted to benzodiazepines, which is like a drug that calms you down and chills you out. And she just loved the doctors who would prescribe her as many as she wanted. She's going to tell her that's a fantastic doctor, best ever. She would only see that doctor. Is that the doctor you want? Maybe not, because they're not necessarily taking into account the negatives that this is having in this person's life, especially long-term with addictions. So I would say best way to find a good doctor, go into Google and look at the stars. For sure, that's not a bad indicator. So I think if you've got close to 100 5-star ratings, you're probably running a pretty good ship. That's the first thing. Second thing is book an appointment and go and have a look and understand for yourself before you go into the consult, what is it that you want out of this consult? A lot of patients don't do this. It's the weirdest thing. They come there, they want help. What is it? What are you wanting to walk away from this consult with? Oftentimes I'll get to a point when we're having this discussion back and forth and I'm trying to figure out what are you here for, and I'm not actually clear. I'll say to them, what was your expectation coming here this morning? And then they'll be like, and then they'll make something up. And I can see, okay, actually there's not like a clear thing here. So the fact that I'm a bit hazy is not a reflection on I haven't met this person's need. They actually didn't really know. They just wanted some kind of, and then you can kind of like find that out. But go into a discussion with your doctor, knowing what it is that you want, and then be very sure that you made that very apparent to them, and then judge them on how well they tended to what you needed. That would be...
Yeah, and maybe not jump to an overshoot as well. Like, okay, this person didn't overshoot my needs.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I walked out there and it felt like I was pampered on top of what...
He didn't ask me, is there anything else before I left? Well, maybe your time was up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that a nice barometer is always a partner. So like take your wife or your mom or your brother or your sister with you and discuss it afterwards. Because when you're in the consult, it's actually not like you feel pressure. It's almost like a interrogation sometimes. So you don't really take in everything. So you might experience it as maybe not the best, but then maybe your partner was like, wow, that doctor was super thorough. Or you might think, yes, this doctor just gave me everything. And your wife knows actually what you need. And they were like, yeah, but they're not really push into this or take the time to do this.
I think that's a very good point. So a bit of a personal thing, but so I went with a family member and they had a lung issue at the time and not cancer or anything like that, but then they actually asked me to go with, not for like the love and support, but to actually sit there and try and listen to what this person was saying, because a family member just couldn't actually take in the knowledge of what was being said. I actually recorded. I'm like, sorry, doc, I'm just going to record this. Don't worry, it's not to like, have like this information that you're going to give us. It's because I just want to have to play it back for my mom and have a discussion on it afterwards. And at the end of the day, I think that person lent on me for that, just to try and make sure that the consultation went well, so that they don't go, what did he say again about this?
Yeah, which is easy to do. The doctor says something in your head, you start wondering about that
Yeah.
thing they said. No, they said 3 other things which you've missed in that period
Yeah.
of time, you know.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think that's a really nice indicator of if a doctor's interested in you or not, is if they do have an issue with you bringing someone, it's a bit of a red flag.
Someone, or even then just recording what they say, because
Yep.
sometimes it is a bit of a conversation.
Of course.
I mean, I forget these things that you and I
course.
talk about. Like, dude,
Yep.
what did you tell me again about this? You know?
I'm very big on people recording it. It actually makes me feel valued. Like, okay, they're taking the time to really try and listen to what I'm saying. And like, you know, I don't ever look at that and go like, yes, sis, what are you doing? What are you trying to achieve here? Kind of nice. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is important. They're taking this seriously.
Alrighty. Any other questions on that?
No?
Okay, so we're going to go into the pharmaceuticals next. Let's hash it out.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.